Hello, everybody. This is Adrienne, and I'm here with one of my dear clients from Beyond Migraine, Martha Taylor. She's going to talk about her life with migraine and how she was able to cut down her migraine meds and days by 70% being in Beyond Migraine. So Martha, welcome. I'm just so grateful for your time to spend with us today.
I'm grateful to be here and sing the praises of this program.
Oh, thank you, Martha. Well, let me introduce you, and then we'll get going into some questions. As a retired nurse, Martha had been living with migraine for over 20 years before she joined Beyond Migraine. She was someone who was always on the go. We were just talking about how she walked Camino de Santiago, 40 days of walking in Spain. She worked hard taking care of others. But with all of this, she was still laid up in bed at least once a week with a very debilitating migraine attack, taking meds every other day to cope with her migraine symptoms. And one of her most challenging symptoms was aphasia, where she would have these phases of disorienting symptoms where it was difficult to talk or communicate. And these intense symptoms were very terrifying. And so she was really desperate to find a way, to prevent these migraine days and to just improve her quality of life again. So Martha, now that you're here and can tell us firsthand, what was going on in your life when you started looking into migraine coaching and maybe some other options besides what you had already been trying?
When I first met you and the program on Facebook, early last year, actually, I was almost desperate. Like you said, I was having about one every other day. It's like I was really being pretty miserable. And the hardest part about that is that you lose so much of your social contact. I couldn't go out to eat. I couldn't, be with people when I was not able to do anything but try to prevent any more pain from the migraines. And so I had been struggling through so many different things that promised relief and maybe gave them temporarily, but I would tell all my friends, oh, I found the next thing. And I was so happy I found the relief. And then, 2 weeks or 2 months later, I'd be gone again.
Yeah, and we're going through this cycle. Yeah, of trying, it sounds like both prescriptions and, the medicine, but also some more alternative treatments. Like, what had you already tried?
I had, in 1998, when I had my first really terrible migraine, I was at a workshop and not far away from home and ended up in an emergency room where they gave me Imitrex, a shot. And it took away the headache, but it gave me some pretty bad side effects. And then, I had quite a period of time where they would come and go briefly, and I would take over-the-counter meds and seem to be okay. And then I finally bought the book Heal Your Headache by David Buchholz, and I went strictly on that program for quite a long time. But that certainly didn't help my social life because it's so restrictive that I really couldn't manage to stay on it. When I was on it, it did give me some headache relief, but I couldn't manage to live very long on that system. So then I think it was I had tried acupuncture and actually found a practice early on that seemed to help some, but it helped me psychologically, but it didn't really do much for the headaches. And so I struggled along, and in 2007, I went to a doctor here who gave me some Maxalt. And Maxalt is wonderful, but you find eventually, if you go through enough cycles of having rebound headaches, you find that you just can't manage. So you end up trying to go cold turkey, which I did for a while, and that was pretty intense. And so eventually I tried a lot of different, I did try Cephaly for about a year, and it did tone down things, but I felt like I just needed more than that. That and Maxalt when I took it occasionally. And so I tried Topamax, and I tried, well, I did things like buffer or like buffer ibuprofen. I can't say my words,
Mhm.
and a cup of coffee. I had
Yeah.
gotten off coffee when I did the program with David
Yeah.
Buckles, and again, it's just things worked for a while, and then they
Yeah.
stopped working.
And
I'm
this
so
is, yeah,
sorry.
after, a long life of living with migraine, and like so many of us, you tried everything from
Yes,
devices to
we all
diets.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all
So
do
what
that.
do you think really, brought things together? What do you think? Why do you think Beyond Migraine helped you so much, really reducing your migraine days? Like we mentioned, 70% within 8 weeks. Why do you think that made such a difference where other things hadn't?
Yes, I think that's a very good question. I think for me, it was the structure of the program. It wasn't demanding. It was like
Mm.
1 week we do one thing, 1 week we do the next. And each time you gave enough information that you could go a little deeper.
Mhm.
Like, first, find yourself getting enough rest. I wasn't even aware that I wasn't getting that much quality sleep.
Mhm.
And so that first part where we do yoga every day, and we talked about that briefly too, yoga every day. I never missed a day because it helped me. If nothing else, it helped me to calm down a
Yeah.
little bit
And
after
I
every
again, I
day.
want to shout out to Martha. So Martha joined Beyond Migraine back in January, and we're recording this mid-May. And she told me before our going live that she has not missed a day of yoga since January. And I I can't say the same for myself. So I want to, give you some respect and praise because that is amazing. And I think a huge reason why you've experienced so much benefit is that you really did take the program seriously. You really followed the steps. You committed to your yoga practice. And that just begins to compound so many other benefits, like the more consistent you are and longer you practice.
Yeah. And I found differently than I had before that for me, setting it up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when I usually have a lull between what I'm
Mm.
doing, and remember, you were raising children. I was not raising children.
Sure.
Those days had gone fly away for me, and it's because I married late in life, and so I was able to set aside. That was like an appointment. It was like it
Yes.
went on my calendar as that's what I'm doing.
Yes. And that's
And
what we really teach people in Beyond Migraine, that your self-care is your health care, that it does, if you put it on the back burner, like you're not going to experience the health that you want. You have to take care of yourself physically and mentally and spiritually to have this boost of health that we're all looking
right.
for.
Yeah, one of the things I liked fairly early on is you gave us a link to someone talking about sleep hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that was very important to me to get off the screen. It was one thing for an hour. It gave you a chance. Sometimes I would be like, well, now what am I going to do for an hour? Because I was so used to being on YouTube or whatever that just to take a book, a real book, and read a book as the book was
Yeah.
something new for me. Um,
Yeah.
so all those things really helped.
Right. And tell us about one of the times that I remember when this happened, you were so excited.
I
We
was.
mentioned that you often would get migraine with aura, and sometimes the aura migraine attacks would lead to like that really challenging symptom of aphasia. And you've had these times that were really scary where you couldn't communicate about what was going on. And this was, one of the types that you're really hoping to get some help and some relief and feel less anxious about. So tell us about that time where you could kind of sense that coming, and you use the power of your breath to really avert it and calm yourself.
Yes. Well, the chapter that you put on breathing, and in that chapter you recommended this book by James Reston, who talks just about breath.
Mhm.
And I was really taken with that book and with those chapters and how it taught it began to teach it, and then you continued teaching special breathing. And we had company coming, and I was all excited about the company. And then just then it started this migraine. It came with like this aura that your eyes start to flash a little. And so I knew to go to quiet. So I went to the back room, but this time I didn't lay down, which I usually do. And I just started that box breath, and I did it. I just sat there and did it and did it. I mean, it was probably 15, 20 minutes that I spent. And then I stopped and I thought, I checked in. I said, oh, I don't even have a migraine. I don't have anything. It was like it all went away. And I still am not having, I maybe had one mild one, but I haven't had any since.
Wow.
And so now I'm starting to wonder if my nervous system got so overloaded that it was creating this effect to try to get me to slow down and back up. And so it feels almost like it's done a lot to help me relax.
Yeah.
Because I think I was living in fear. I was living in fear of the next migraine. And how am I going to cope with that if I can't talk? And
And it seems like you overcame that fear, and like you built that confidence in yourself that you were able to manage this on your own without medication. And in the program, we do talk so much about how the brain's sense of high alertness of fear perpetuates the pain, and that when we can relax and feel safe with the physical sensations, our anxiety goes down and our pain goes down. And it sounds like you really felt that, and that made a big shift for you.
Yeah. And I was remembering when in some of the times we've had yoga and you were there, and even when not, the same words are spoken, but you said something about possibility. Because that I was struggling a bit at that time. You were talking about the possibility of change. And at that time, I was waking up in the middle of the night with migraine. And it's hard, you're not awake enough to think. And so I just decided that I was going to have to come up with something. And then we had yoga the next morning, and you suggested this possibility of change. And I just sat there and I thought of this way to write down a plan, so that then I didn't have to be thinking. I could just go through this plan, and I wrote it down and put it beside my bed. And amazing, just having a plan helped me to get through those times more easily, and even get through them without staying up the rest of the night trying to deal with that. So so I've learned a lot, and I think I've just taken it in a way that really has helped me. Maybe because I was so desperate after all the
Sure, but you had that open-mindedness about it, and that openness to really explore yourself, because that is a big part of what we do. It's not something that someone else is going to help heal you, or a med is going to heal you. I mean, it's personal transformation, it's personal growth. It's looking at how we think about pain and how we push ourselves, and all of this, it makes up a part of our health. And so I think you were, just so primed to really look at yourself and your habits and tendencies, and to make changes.
I remember at the beginning when you had suggested this practice of somatic tracking, and I had not heard that. I heard about plenty of psychosomatic things. I never heard of just checking in with the body in that way, and so simply and so short. And then teaching us these little teeny steps that we can take. Then I began to attach that to getting up in the morning and fixing my tea. And then I would try to go and do a little bit of that at the beginning. So very helpful.
It's nothing, right? It's nothing major. It's all these like little steps, like you said, that we teach people how to connect them to things you're already doing. So even if you're coming in with chronic migraine and feel debilitated, feel like you don't have energy, we really lay it out in a way that's doable. And I also want to, just point out, like for Martha, she's retired and she is doing yoga every day, and this is manageable. So maybe you could share a little bit about that, like how that experience was, just maybe moving into, some effort, right? You're making changes. How did it feel doable?
I felt like I was being educated in a new way of being, and partly
Hmm.
because when I read at some of the links and some of the information, it added to the program, it added to the yoga. And so I was looking forward to checking in when the new modules, we would all wait for the module to come next. So what is the next thing we're going to learn about? And that maybe is partly due to being able to be retired and put in some time. But I'm a very active person, and the less pain I had, the more active I could be. And
There you
so
go.
it felt like it all kind of fit together in a way that worked really well for me.
Yeah.
And I just have to shout out to you for setting up a program, because you yourself have had chronic migraine and have
Mhm.
struggled through the huge changes that you have to make in your life to sort of live in a different way. And I think that in some ways that's the same thing I had to do. I had to learn to live without some things that I really liked until I could pay attention to myself a little more. I had
Mhm.
always been so active, so dedicated to helping other people that I forgot in the process that I get to be included in those.
There you go.
You don't have to say
Yes.
no to yourself to say yes to helping yourself.
Love
And I
that.
think if I can help anybody else, move forward toward self-healing, it's possible. At
Mm.
least, it certainly has been going on without migraine for me for at least a couple of months.
Wow.
Started feeling really better. And to have a week with no headache for me, well, sometimes I just feel like I want to cry with joy.
Oh, oh,
It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. So
that's beautiful. So
good.
yeah, how has life changed for you? Going from every other day with a migraine attack, now to maybe a handful each month. I'm not sure what your latest numbers are. How has that been physically and mentally, emotionally for you?
It's been physically freeing.
Hmm.
And I am teaching now, I'm learning to spend more time just feeling relaxed, emotionally feeling relaxed. I can't get a migraine when I'm that relaxed. It just doesn't come.
Love
And
it.
so I can read a book and enjoy the book. I can take a walk when I want to. I've learned to wear a mask to keep the pollen out so I can walk anytime. I'm gardening. I've been planting a lot of plants this year.
Wow.
And so the gardening, the walking, the exploring. I rejoined a social group that I was a part of that dances, and I
Yes.
really missed that. And went to a book club yesterday.
Good for
So yeah,
you.
I'm just refilling the spaces that I had to drop back from, that I really loved enough that it's worth it
Mhm.
now to be able to participate. And I'm doing it in a different way. I'm just not pushing like I felt like, I think
Yeah.
before I was pushing, even if I was doing enjoyable things, I was overdoing.
Yeah.
Um, so
That is a huge, huge lesson in transformation, that it is like learning a new way of being in the world. Um, and just, personally, as someone recovered from chronic migraine, a lot of people I would say, just want to go back to how things were, before, when I used to be able to do all these things. And for me, I'd say now it's more like my life is better than it used to be. I am living in a more balanced way. I treat myself better. I take care of myself better. And that is really what I hope my clients get out of this too, that that you are able to refill like your cup like you are, and be more social and be more physically active, but the energy you're bringing to it, like you said, is different, and it's decreasing that intensity of your pain.
it's helping me to move along to something else that I've been really wanting to more deeply explore, and that's Ayurveda.
Yes.
And so that you had that woman that came and spoke about
Mhm.
Ayurveda. And I've locally found a woman who practices she's actually skilled in Ayurveda. And so I'm going to move in that direction and find out more about this whole practice, because it's quite big. And
Right.
um, and she does the full program. So it'll be fascinating to find out more to me.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that your thirst to, learn is that's beautiful, and everything in Beyond Migraine is evidence-based. Like you said, all the things that we do, I back it up with articles that you're able to read. So it gives you just more confidence and education in what we're doing. But yeah, you mentioned these shifts like in yourself personally. How many migraine, let's say just talk about like how many medications you need to take each month, like what does that look like for you now
well,
compared to what you used to have?
yeah, I mean, I was taking up to 14,
Mm,
and then, it would wax and wane a little, but
sure.
usually between 10 and 15 a month. And so when I started the program, I didn't do great right away,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
then within the second month, they started to just not be as frequent.
Mhm.
I might have gone down maybe 3 or 4 a month, but then it just continued until this month. I've only maybe had two, and
Mhm.
we're getting close to the end of the month. And I'm
Yeah.
even considering dropping some of the medications that I had been on as an
Mhm.
experiment to
Right.
see which ones of them do I really need
Yeah.
now that I've found this um, gold part of being able to just totally relax,
Yeah.
and I can work with it.
Mhm.
So anyway, that may take a little
That's
while,
amazing.
but I'm closer to being able to maybe just drop some of the stuff. I
Right.
take gazillion supplements. It's
Sure.
I might be able to move
Yeah.
back a little bit with the amount I take.
Well,
But
that is a dramatic decrease, right? From
yes,
every other day to maybe 3 or 4 a month of medication, which means, you're not having the pain. It's not like you're just
no.
taking meds and you're just gritting your teeth and bearing it. I mean, you're just not experiencing the symptoms like you used to.
The
And
worst ones, yeah, that I have had have been because of the barometric pressure.
yeah, sure.
When the weather has been extremely changeable these
Yeah.
last few, and I'm finding it a struggle to try to
Mhm.
just diminish because I'm a very sensitive person. And
Mhm.
when that pressure goes, when it changes a lot, either up or down, it does seem
Yeah.
to influence
So
that.
even with, some of these things that happen to in the world that we don't have control over, has your ability to cope been different, or your mindset about it?
It must be, it was my um, my older brother died during this period of time, and it was very hard for me. We had to go back to Chicago, and on our way back we got COVID in
Mm.
Ohio. And so we had, I mean, that was quite a stress on the body
Oh
and
gosh.
spirit, losing
Yes.
my brother, because he was one of three brothers and two of them now are gone. So
Mm.
this is one of the things that happen as you
Right.
age. And at least they had a long life, which is, I mean, one of them did, one of them did not. But anyway, yeah, it feels like there was something bigger working in me that helped me to cope with those
Mhm.
difficulties. And I thought as family support, but also just living in a lovely place and having the
Mhm.
energy of the environment to be
Yeah.
good. So,
And tell me
so
about, that sense of community. I know that was a big benefit that you really felt during the Beyond Migraine program, is just being in this community with the other clients and feeling that support and feeling like you're not alone.
oh, that was so huge. And if any of my fellow workers, migraine warriors or whisperers are here, I'm very grateful for all the support that they provided. It's hard to bring in the fact that when you talk about migraine in most places, people just want to tell you their own story and not really nod and say, "Oh yes, I understand." They
Mm,
or and but here, all you had to do was just talk about something that was you were going through, and heads would nod, and you would feel the same way toward the group, because it's like we're all in this together in a very deep way, because
mhm.
migraine has got such an effect on on our whole being,
Mm-hmm.
that feeling upheld. I mean, it was just like being a
Yeah.
baby and being held. It really
Mm,
did make a huge difference for me, you
yeah.
know. I mean,
And
people
with people all over the world too. I mean, that's what's so amazing, right? With the internet, and we can all be so different, come from different walks of life, different countries, but that common experience of migraine really brings us together, and we can support each other so deeply.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was considering looking around and seeing who in my own town might have
Mhm.
migraine and just want a support group, just to
Yeah.
somebody to share with.
Yes, that is a huge part of the Beyond Migraine program, and for everybody living with migraine. I mean, to have others that understand and that you can be honest about what you're experiencing. And also, the goal of the Beyond Migraine group is to have that openness, but also kind of not to like dwell on it and feel victimized by migraine. That we're all working to empower ourselves to have tools to move beyond it. Did you feel that?
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
also from you to continuously give us suggestions when we have particular, the fact that we were meeting once a week and that we had yoga together once a week
Mhm.
was huge, supportively, to
Mhm.
check in with each other and to check in with our yoga practice and learn
Mhm.
just with attention.
Mhm.
I felt one of the better things that Zoom provides.
There you go. Yeah, and for you, you've tried so many things that now, right, we're 3 months out of you graduating from your program, and that you're still experiencing the benefit physically. You're still maintaining the lower migraine days, which it sounds like you hadn't always experienced before. That
No,
this is something that you feel like you can control now, and I think you even mentioned that at one point, that this was like the first time you felt in control of your
yeah,
migraine and
yeah.
headache
I
days.
actually never felt like I was quite enough removed from the fear.
Mm.
And since, to go with a week without a migraine, it's like it helps me again to trust that whatever I'm doing is working for me. And therefore, I think in many ways it can work for the universe of people that are out there with migraines,
Yes.
that there is something that works. And
Yes.
I wouldn't have believed that I could do without aphasia. That was one thing I didn't even put into the pocket when I made my goals. But the
Mm.
fact that I was able to have that experience and to settle my nervous system down enough that that it wasn't overreacting to.
Yeah. And like that sense of power that you have, that you did that, you were able to use your breath, your mind, your body to help yourself, and not depend on something else. I think that's a huge part of this. And to kind of talk about, yeah, like that, it can be hard, right? So many people have tried so many things to kind of believe, like, oh, is this gonna really work? So what would you say to someone who's considering working with me, or thinking like, oh, sure, it worked for Martha, but would it work
Yeah,
for me?
I know. I said it myself many
Yeah.
times, and somehow I think perhaps after suffering a long time, you're more motivated to really put whatever you have into doing it. Maybe it took me putting on a few more years of struggling to get to
Mm,
where I was really willing to believe and to put
mm,
in the investment in doing it, because
right.
in itself, I was telling Adrian before, that was, that she gave me enough confidence by knowing that she had overcome, that she wouldn't have asked for a big investment if it hadn't been really worth it to do it.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
totally gave into it and said,
Yeah.
and it's worked for me.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
so, for others who are considering, possibly joining Beyond Migraine, or what advice would you give them? Would you recommend it?
I would definitely recommend it. It's the first thing that really has gotten deeply enough into me that
Mhm.
I am better for it. And I think you will be too if you do the same. I believe it.
That's great. Well, Martha, I'm so grateful for your time, and it was a joy having you in the program. And I love that we still get to connect every Friday at our yoga class. And I love, keeping tabs on my former clients and to make sure like they're still doing well, and that I'm always a support for you, and that you are an inspiration to me and to everyone else in our community, that your commitment to your yoga practice, your open-mindedness, your love of learning, and to see that now, you're doing all the things that you love again. You're being more physically active, you're being social, you're getting outside again. And I just couldn't be happier for you.
Thank you. Yes,
Wow.
I know. I knew you would be happy to have me be happy. That's a wonderful thing for this program.
Yes,
Actually.
absolutely. Yes, I'm absolutely invested in each one of my clients' success. That's why I'm here, and why I do what I do is to have people experience what Martha experienced. So thank you all for listening, and reach out to me if in the DM if you're interested in Beyond Migraine. We will start our next full program in August, but we do have a few more spots for Move Over Migraine that starts in June. And it's kind of like the foundation of Beyond Migraine to get people started at a more affordable rate that works in their budget. So Martha, thank you again.
Thank you.